Hello and welcome everybody to the Smith School at the University of Oxford, where we have over 100 scholars now working on getting the world to net zero and achieving sustainable development. My name is Cameron Hepburn. I'm a professor of environmental economics and I'm the director of the school. And I'm really delighted today. It's a great pleasure to introduce our inaugural special public lecture. This lecture really celebrates the success of our new master's program, which has become one of the most popular, by some metrics, the most popular master's program in the whole of the University of Oxford. We're delighted by the quality of our students and their engagement with these two big challenges of getting to net zero and achieving sustainable development at the same time. And to give this inaugural special lecture, we wanted an absolutely brilliant leader in enterprise, someone who's been pushing the frontiers, accelerating progress towards getting to net zero at the global level, because we have a very global program here with students from all around the world. And I honestly couldn't have thought of anybody more suitable to ask than Lei Zhang. He's a really brilliant, phenomenal entrepreneur in the clean tech space and has got, as you'll see in just a moment, precisely the sort of vision that we need to get to net zero. So I'm really delighted that he's accepted our invitation. Lei founded the Envision Group 15 years ago in 2007. It's one of the world's leading global clean tech companies. It's a multifaceted company with Envision Energy, which designs and sells and operates smart wind turbines and storage systems. Envision AESC, which is the artificial intelligence of things powered systems and batteries. Envision Digital, which, very impressively now manages an operating system that with over 100 million devices connected to it, all in the energy Internet of Things space, and a carbon neutral fund with Sequoia, and a bunch of other things. And Lei, of course, is a busy man. He sits on a number of advisory panels. In fact, we shared experiences on the Royal Dutch Shell Advisory Board, where I met him and found him to be incredibly helpful in offering advice that was ambitious, pushing Shell to think about going faster and harder on the clean energy transition. He's also on an International Energy Agency Commission, the Energy Transitions Commission, and so on. And he's won many awards as well. Top 10 Sino US Innovators of the Year by Forbes China. He's one of the Fortune China's Change the World 2021 companies, so the global ranking of 50 companies, and Envision is on that list. And in 2019 was ranked in the top 10 of the MIT Technology Review's 50 smartest companies. So as you can see, exactly the right sort of background for us here at Oxford and this program. He's also got many UK connections, whether it's the Sunderland plant battery facility, and of course, graduating from the LSE, an institution I'm very fond of, perhaps not as fond of as I am Oxford, but I spent many years there myself. And Lei also worked for Total and Barclays Capital before returning to China to found Envision. So Lei, we are really, really delighted to have you with us today. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say, and I will hand you the floor for the special lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cameron. So hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to talk to you and also share my views on the current net zero transition. So as Cameron mentioned, so Envision is a global leading green tech companies. We are making wind turbines, the battery storage, hydrogen electrolyzers, AIoT systems, also with the venture fund as well. And no, it looks a bit complicated at the moment, but let's come back to the original point, which is back to 15 years ago, when I was still in the UK. Around 2006 or end of 2006. So by then I was working in the financial industries. So my work is related to the financial derivatives. So I had a feeling, so this financial derivatives is going to causing lots of problem, and I have to do something more meaningful. I know it's going to have a disaster, but I didn't choose the way to short the financial sector. I take the third approach to do something else. So what is more meaningful things? So because I have the option to start a totally new journey, a new future, I look at that time, I found climate change is becoming a hot topic. Of course, so I have this research into this topic, and what I found is really a big, it's not a climate change, it's going to be the crisis. And this crisis, once past certain point, it is going to be irreversible. So our generation should have the responsibility to take the action. And then I start to study, so what's the solution for climate crisis? So the solution is quite apparent: renewable energies. Why? Because today's carbon in the atmosphere coming from man-made industrials is due to the underground coal, gas, and petroleum. So the only way not to put in extra carbon into the atmosphere is going to stop digging the coal and pump the oil. So that's the only solution to stop increase the density of carbon in atmosphere. So then how can we power the world? It's about renewables, wind, solar, hydro, geothermal, all kind of solutions. So then I start to look back at the history of energy. What I found is every time, so when the coal and the oil become the mainstream energy, so the most important character is the cost of energy. Now, once coal replacing straws, because coal is more cost competitive. Once oil become a commodity, a mainstream energy, is because the industrialization of oil productions, oil transportations. So then, okay, I found, so probably wind by then has opportunity to be most cost competitive. So I decide to take on the wind energy. Of course, wind energy is more complicated than solar. It involves a complicated system like a gearbox, generator, bearings, blade design, structure dynamics, aerodynamics, and also this electromagnet design, all kind of complex things, rather than to buying some solar silicon, melt it and cut into pieces, so to be the panel. So, but why I choose a wind? So the wind is comprise lots of technology and have the potential to be further optimized and improved. So today, I feel so lucky. I choose the route of wing. Why? Because it's difficult. It gives Envision this experience to deep dive all the key technology area, like how to design a converter, how to design IGBT modules, and how can we remotely manage wind turbine, which eventually give us the foundation to develop IoT platform. So how can we control the electrical systems, the powertrain from the generator to the transformer, and this is give us the experience. How can we manage, develop the future energy storage system? And once we designed, the aerodynamic blade profile and the gearbox, so, which give us to opportunity to set up innovation center in Colorado, in Denmark, in Germany. So, which is lay out a very good foundation for Envision to be a truly global organization with access all the leading technology and industrial knowledge to make ourselves to become a technology company. So comparing some today's solar panel companies, so they didn't went through such a route. So they end up with cutting pieces, silicon ignore. So they are making solar panels. So that's why, so Envision have more potential to be a technology-driven company. Okay, so back to their days. Choose the wing. So, then what's the name of the company I'm thinking about? So the name Envision was born during my, the work to the office, and someday I realized, okay, so why not call Envision? It's a vision for energy and the environment. EN is energy, but also the environment. We want to harmonize energy and the environment to create a new sustainable future. That's the meaning of Envision. So, have this name has the business idea and start to plan out the strategy. The strategy is we really want to make the wind turbine around the world, to make wind energy be the cheapest energy form in the world, from Europe to US, India, China, everywhere. We want to make wind become the mainstream. So back to 15 years ago. So then we have to create the global market, global talent, and global organization, and to solve such a global problem. So then, at the same time, so I shape the mission of the company. So what's the purpose doing that? So the mission are eventually to make it is to solve the sustainability challenge for the mankind. So that's the mission once Envision was born. Today, I still have a little bit of regret. I think that the mission is too narrow, is too kind of human-centered. It's not only for humanity, actually it should be for all the livings, for the ecosystems. Human is only one part of such a big Earth ecosystem. So, but anyway, so let's make the Earth a good living place for human. I guess will also be a good place for animals, other species as well. So, okay, so then, you can see the company's truly approach is challenge solving. So we're starting with solving the challenge for the cost of energy. As I said, renewable energy have to be cheap. So we have to really facing the challenge and try some new opportunities, because by then, lots of wind turbine company is starting to working, but they are following the conventional approach. They're looking for windy place. And, but very shortly, this windy place has been crowded by the developers. The transmission become a big bottleneck. So the just emerging wind power industry become congested. And suddenly, little new volume, new demand is needed. So for a startup company, so this is challenge. Is quite cold winter, but we find a way to turn the challenge into the opportunity. Why not go for that low wind region? There's more load for energy consumptions, and the grid is much robuster, and also no congestion of renewable over there. So nobody think about this way, that way, because the companies, it just normally, have their stereotype. So Envision, with this kind of fundamental R&D capability, because we designed control algorithm, we designed the blade, we designed the wind turbine from inside out. We tailored the blade with one leading blade company. By that time, it's called AOA. So we designed the first low wing blade with AOA together. AOM actually, they just don't believe us. So, okay, so nobody is doing such, have some crazy ideas, but they feel, okay, probably I look like still a trustworthy person, because by then Envision is only 2 years old. Okay, we created the world first low wind turbine to make wind turbine being profitable around below 6 meters per second. Previously, is wind turbine have to always, running in the average wind speed place above 7. So then you can see lots of places become available to making wind turbines. So I still remember by then, so for at least 5 years, become a next wave building low wind farms around China. And Envision keep almost 50% annual growth for like 5 to 8 years. So, okay, so this is the case. I said, okay, solving the challenges and for cost of energy. And today, if you look at cost of wind energy, so especially on northern part of China, and also in Europe, like in Spain or in Middle East, we are able to achieve 1.5 US cents per kilowatt hour cost. So which is extremely cost competitive. I think almost 50% lower, even more than fossil fuel. Coal-fired energy is even much lower, much lower than gas power stations. So we consider the cost of energy challenge has been solved. Envision definitely is the pioneer and the globally innovation leader to launch this first global low wind turbines. Then once the black box has been opened, lots of great ideas is come out, even our competitors, peers. So people have, so totally have been freed up to make a wind turbine more efficient. Then the second is we start to design a software-defined wind turbines. So normally, European turbine companies, they are coming from mechanics, Germans, Danish companies. They are very strong on mechanical drivetrain. But Envision is very strong on the software algorithm, control algorithms, sensors. So we, through this sensor control algorithm optimization, we can make a small change on the blade profile, then can lead to a big reduction on the foundation cost, especially for offshore wind. So this software-defined wind turbines is really reduce the overall capex cost for the offshore wind, also for the onshore wind. I think which is go beyond wind turbine itself, but also for the overall wind farm infrastructure. Because for offshore wind turbine, 60% cost is for the steel foundation in the sea. So how actually the original force is coming from the load from your blade tip. So through a very good control algorithm, software-defined approach, you are able to reduce the load significantly. At the same time, by applying this, advanced predictive maintenance, so we are able to run the wind turbine in a very efficient way. So this is the first challenge. Then you can see we're starting solving the second challenges, which is the cost of storage. So as I said, wind is become the new coal. So battery is going to become new oil. Why is that? So once you are able to produce renewable at a very low cost, the challenge is about how can you store the renewables. So store renewable in the storage system or in the battery or in EV, especially for downstream, decarbonization for transportation, store energy for downstream is very important. I think by 2010, the cost of battery is above 1,000 US dollar per kilowatt hour. Today, so the storage cost now around 100 US dollar per kilowatt hour, 90% off, because of the innovation on the battery storage technology. So Envision, I think 4 years ago, we moved into the battery sectors using our ideas, innovations to really drive down the cost of battery to make the cost of storage is much lower. So you can see because of cost of storage dropping and more storage system is going to build up in the UK for offshore wind eventually, and also to replace very expensive gas turbines, and also to make system is more robust. So we will see the cost of storage is going to be continuously going down for next few years. So solving the cost of energy, solving the cost of storage, then what's the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge for next 5 to 10 years is called cost of synergy. What is cost of synergy? Think about the future industrial system. The energy production is intermittent by renewables everywhere, decentralized, pieces by pieces. And consumption-wise, you have lots of electric vehicles, electrical motors, electrical boat, and intelligent home. So electrification rate is going to from 20% to 80%. This demand and supply balance is going to be huge, chaotic. What we need to do is we need to create this innovative IoT platform to orchestrate the supply and demand and to make them be real-time adjusted. So that's the idea for Envision Digital. So Envision Digital want to be the digital platform for decarbonization. So to make this new grid to solve the synergy cost. And apart from Envision Digital, so we also have a next level idea, which is called Envision Net Zero Industrial Park. Why Net Zero Industrial Park? Because Envision Digital is solving the synergy cost in the timing way, not on the location way. But another synergy cost is the load center is far away from resource center. How can we solve this synergy cost? If we're waiting for transmission grid, probably you need 5 to 10 years. It's too late. The opportunity windows is going to shut. What we're going to do is we're going to put the industrial cluster in the center of resources. This place normally in the remote places, but Envision create the world first net zero industrial park in Erdos. Erdos is a city of coal. 18% of Chinese coal is making there. This city produces more coal than Europe and the US consumed. So, but we say, okay, we want to make the city become net zero. Let's create a net zero industrial park in the city because they have abundant wind resources and solar resources. Using our IoT technology, using storage, using hydrogen, we create a collective new energy system, using them to producing our battery material, cathode, anode, and also to producing battery cell, and also with our customer producing commercial vehicle in this cluster. So it's totally create a net zero industrial cluster. I told people there, so this place is going to be, although have the baggage of the fossil fuel, but it's going to be the new center of green industrial revolution. Because this net zero industrial park now like a huge magnet to attract the companies making the renewable equipment, components companies, system companies coming, also attract the companies making vehicle components. If you look at the history of every time the industrial revolution is the energy sector combined with transportation, from the coal steam engine with locomotive, from diesel engine with passenger vehicles. So if you look at So this is normally, because these two sectors have a $1 trillion market size, once they're merging together, so batteries, new energies with passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, this two sector is huge. Once they're merging together, it's become a big catalyst to shape a future system a future industrial system. So, through this approach, we're solving geographically synergy cost. So, this is a really effective to not only to consume the low cost, abundant green energy, but also what motivates us is make us excited. You are able to change the place into a new future. You are able to bring the wealth and job opportunity for these less developed regions. You are able to balance the wealth for this place and make the net zero transition become more inclusive. So that's something, so this net zero industrial park is aiming for. So then the final part, so is about Envision Sequoia Venture Fund. Also Envision have some bigger new idea is coming line, is we want to create new industrials, because we thought this revolution is not only about the energy revolution, but it is going to be the industrial revolution. So it's going to be hydrogen steel, synthetic biology, new power electronics, semiconductor business. So this is going to be a new cluster. So let me see Envision's overall stories. So from new coal, which is wind storage, to new oil, which is hydrogen, which is battery, and the new grid is AIoT system. We combine new coal, new oil, new grid together, become a collective new energy system to support the new infrastructure, which is net zero industrial park. Using the net zero industrial park to incubate the future in new industries and the new technology companies. So to solving the sustainability challenge for the mankind and for all the living things on the planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lei. I love the fact that you've decided that your ambition was too modest and you need to not just make sure that humanity can survive and thrive, but all living things too. That was a really fantastic tour de force. We have this select group of lucky students in the classroom here in Oxford joining us as well. What I was struck by in your lecture is that you haven't chosen to do things the easy way. As you said, it was doing it the hard way, and all of the complexity of wind that has enabled Envision to grow in these other areas, in IoT, in technology, in software. And that is actually, in a sense, the platform for extracting these. You're describing about reducing the costs of synergy. I'd probably say you could also think about them as real opportunities of synergy. So that's interesting. You don't do things the hard way. There are a lot of our students at Oxford, including in this course, who are keen on starting companies. And it's interesting to hear how the idea, how the name came into your head, and how the vision crystallized. And then you translated that down into very specific targets, pulling the costs down, going where the other firms aren't, finding the niche. It's always what an entrepreneur has to do. Where are other players? And this low wind idea, getting blades that work at under 6 meters a second, it's always obvious in retrospect, but it's genius actually to have had that idea at the time. And then I'm sure also our students be interested in how you manage growth, because when you're growing at 50% per annum for 5 to 8 years, it can strain organizational structures, people, certainly constrain a chief executive, and you're still there with a big smile on your face, growing further. So, I mean, I'm particularly impressed by that. I've got loads of questions that the students are going to have questions too, but I'm going to be a bit self-interested and ask you some myself, if that's okay first. So just a general one to start with. Of all of these successes that you've had in wind, in digital, in batteries, and now thinking about net zero industrial parks and the venture fund, what are you most proud of?
I think probably the net zero industrial park. So I would consider this is going to be the building block for green industrial revolution. And why? Think about the industrial revolution. The outcome is a factory. There's no factory before that. So the factory is the place you are able to harness the powerful energy from steam engine and to turn into products. So previously, you don't have such an effective use of powerful energy. For the green industrial park, you have abundant, low-cost, powerful net zero energy. But this is not going to happen within the factory. It will happen in the region. So then you orchestrate this wind solar with your storage system, with your IoT platform, using the hydrogen or industrial gas as a storage buffer, and providing the net zero infrastructure for the future companies. It's going to be the platform. It's going to be the catalyst. Also, it makes me feel really proud because we are helping those less developed regions. Normally, so the region where are not developed is the region have lots of wind, lots of water, lots of sunshine, not good for living condition. So that's why it's not good for not well developed. Now it becomes that turn. The people over there have such a great opportunity to turn such resources into the engine of a new industrial revolution. I think that's something to contribute to human development. And the economic development is something very satisfying.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important that you have emphasized the inclusivity of this net zero transition. And in a sense, people often say, well, there's a risk of others being excluded. And of course, there is with any transition, there's a risk of dislocation. But what we know is that there are more jobs per megawatt hour. Energy, once you're harnessing the wind and the sun, it's everywhere. So it's far more democratic. As you say, you can use the energy to help to achieve sustainable development goals in otherwise impoverished communities. So I think there's huge potential for us to be solving lots of problems at the same time. Yeah. Can I just pick up on one thing you said? With the net zero industrial parks, obviously we have batteries helping to manage load, manage storage requirements, but you also said hydrogen. And earlier in your talk, you said batteries are the new oil. And I kind of pricked up my ears at that point because I've been thinking of, perhaps ammonia as the new oil, in the sense that if you think of it as a storage technology that is very cheap, that can move long distances, and that can store chemical energy for long periods of time. So just your thoughts on what is the new oil? Is it batteries? Is it hydrogen? Is it ammonia? Is it some combination? How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I think, the new oil, if you look at the role of oil, is it plays with multiple functions. One is fuel. Another is chemical materials. So a battery definitely is play the role of the energy part, the fuel part, to replace oil on the transportation sector. But so there still needs for oil on the other part.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, like aviation oil. It's difficult to decarbonize the aviation. Probably you need hydrogen. Probably you need synthetic biofuels. So I think ammonia for sure is going to be new oil. Hydrogen is going to be the new oil. Synthetic biology fuel or synthetic biology materials, raw materials, is also going to play the role of oil, because using the DNA editing to design the algae, or bacteria, and let them to absorb CO2, to creating new materials, which will become the feedstock of chemical process. So they are also become a multiple source of oil. So I think the oil sector is too much, too big. But I'm seeing it's going to be rearranged. It's going to be, reshaped by lots of new oil elements.
Yeah, for sure. I was interested, you said electricity moving from 20 to 80% of the overall energy system. 80% is kind of at the top end of those estimates, but it sounds like you think quite a lot of this system will not need to go molecular and can be delivered through electricity down wires.
Yeah, I think from the electrification, 80% or even more, because end of the day, even you will use liquid, but the liquid is not originate from fossil liquid.
Sure.
The liquid is coming from renewable electricity first. So that's why. So because of renewable electricity is so cheap, it's cheaper than anything. So then renewable electricity can generate so much different things, even including liquid.
Okay, so you have in mind.
Yeah, so that's why I say the electrification is going to be much higher.
Yep, I understand. So the electrification is high because you're producing hydrogen with electrolysis. You're combining the hydrogen with other compounds like CO2 to produce your hydrocarbon liquids, but in a carbon neutral way. That makes sense. One last one from me, and then I will turn to the floor. I haven't actually finished, so I've got a lot more to ask, but I don't want to steal the time from the students. You may know that the UK has £100 million going into thinking about what the carbon cycle looks like in the future. And given your vision is so clear of what a net zero system looks like, I'm interested in how you're thinking about both taking carbon out of the air and storing it, taking carbon out of the air industrially, and then using it to build these building blocks of net zero liquids and other feedstocks for, we use an awful lot of carbon. We're surrounded by carbon. It's not just a fuel. It's an input into many of the products and services that we use in the economy, whether it's plastics or computers, the screen I'm looking at now, the camera. So the carbon's got to come from somewhere that isn't petrochemicals and isn't deep in the earth and rocks in the lithosphere. It's got to come from the biosphere. So we're going to have to reconfigure how we get our carbon, how we use our carbon, how we take carbon out of the air. And Oxford's leading this large research program for the UK, at least, to think about multiple dimensions of these carbon flows in a net zero economy. It sounds like you've been thinking about that too, especially with the biorefinery piece.
I have the answer for you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so definitely the mechanical way is not efficient. The most efficient way is the synthetic biology.
Mm-hmm.
So think about this micro livings in the sea or algae or whatever. So they can directly using solar energy and then to absorb CO2 and create their membranes or so kind of solidified CO2 and then sinking to the sea. So this is going to be much more energy efficient than our mechanical way because they become the active agent directly using solar energy. And also they making by themselves. So that's why synthetic biology is so important. We have always to develop the most advanced these micro livings. So they will become a major role. Think about so long time ago. So when the earth is full of CO2 in the ocean, that's a small, algae. So they are taking CO2 from the air. And then gradually, so the density of CO2 is getting less and less. So if we are using a physical way or mechanical way, so think about the energy efficiency. It is not, I think is not that advanced. So, but one thing, we probably cannot do much effective physical way, but another way is, what is the most effective carbon capture and storage in the earth? It's coal. It's the most effective carbon capture and the cheapest storage without pressure. They just bury there because the earth have made it for you for 15, 20 million years ago. So then it's better not to using them. They have been kept and stored so well. Don't using them for energy purpose. So that's why no coal. Yeah. If you need energy, renewables. Yeah.
As we say in English, you're preaching to the choir, I think, here on looking away from coal. It's a wonderful store of CO2 that we should just leave well alone. Super. Well, I want to come back to a few things myself. I mean, your venture fund, I'm pitched multiple new ventures every week in the clean tech space. I'd love to hear about how you filter, process, work out what you're going to back and what you're not going to. And I'd also like to come back to the role of universities, of course, and in particular, Oxford, we've oldest English-speaking university in the world, and with a long relationship with China, actually, going back to the 17th century, and we have over 3,000 Oxford alumni in China. So there are two things I'd like to explore, but the class are waiting, and I've been rather greedy. So let me hand over to the course director for the MSc program, who's with us, Lawrence Wainwright, and with our students to pick up a couple of questions from the classroom. Lawrence.
Thank you very much, Cameron, and good morning, Lee. Good evening to you. It's such a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking the time. We have an exclusive group of our MSc in Sustainability, Enterprise and Environment students with us. We're thrilled to have the opportunity to ask you some questions. So I've got quite a few burning questions myself, including a few things on algae. And that reminded me that I've got to clean my fish tank off, get rid of some of the algae there. But I'll start with the students. Who would like to kick off with a question for Lee? Lucy.
Hi, Larry. It's really a pleasure to have heard from you today. I just have a question relating to the demand side for the innovations that you're kind of fostering. So if you think about the green industrial park and all the technologies that will come out of it, I'm curious, particularly from a Chinese perspective, who you think will be procuring the technology that comes out of this cluster of knowledge? Do you see that there's a lot of demand side kind of preferential procurement already being requested from on behalf of the Chinese government or from the municipality? Or do you think also it's corporations in China, manufacturers already that are looking to procure these technologies when they're ready to be procured?
Do you mean the product or technology coming out from the Net Zero Industrial Park?
So I would assume, of course, batteries are going to be procured by energy companies and by automobile manufacturers. But even going beyond that, the hydrogen, the things that are can be universally used by all sorts of businesses and by the government. Do you see that it's the government is going to be the first customer, or do you see that it's already the industry in China that's looking to buy these products or these technologies?
Yeah, I think the government, they're not going to be the customer. Because government is providing the land, the infrastructure foundations, but the role is really, is the enterprise itself. So this Net Zero Industrial Park is not only about the industrial cluster making products. Now, as you mentioned, there could be a company come out with innovation and technologies. So today, the customer for this Net Zero Industrial Park products is a company. They want to promote their products around the globe without these carbon restrictions, carbon tariff restrictions, or the company who are setting their mandate well ahead of 2050. So they want to make their consumers to be happy with their environment commitment. So they are willing to buy the net zero steel, net zero materials, net zero batteries, or net zero products. So these consumer companies, so now they haven't moving to the Net Zero Industrial Park, but we could expect this company, once now this Net Zero Industrial Park is more focused on green energy generation and upstream components and material productions. Once this cluster gets bigger and bigger, so EV, big, maybe Mercedes, maybe BMW, they are willing to set up their net zero car manufacturing because they can easily get all kinds of net zero products. They can create net zero cars, or they can create net zero smartphones. And when the cluster gets bigger and bigger, so all related technology supply and technology service will come out as well. So the company who are using the platform to tracing the CO2, to managing the energy flows, or helping trading the green electricity or carbon certificate, all kinds of related technology will become gradually developed. But it's going to be a gradual process. Now still version 1.0 is green energy, raw material, upstream components yet.
Thank you so much, Lei, for that comprehensive answer. Who would like to go next? Ryan.
Yeah, thank you. It's really interesting hearing your vision for what you're pursuing in your company and how that spreads throughout the world. I'm curious, do you really think that the world will achieve net zero by 2050? Yeah, that's my question. Do you think that the world will achieve net zero by 2050?
I'll tell you a true story. I think which is about 4 or 5 years ago in Vatican. So Pope is inviting some of oil majors and big energy companies, big investors, financial companies, around like 20. And when we in a discussion, so I asked the question for all of them. Yeah. So I asked whether you guys believing we can achieve net zero. Oh no, it's not about achieve net zero. It's about, are we able to make 2 degrees by end of century? And the answer is nobody raising hand. So it seems it's quite sad. So, but that's the problem. So although lots of smart people know we're not going to achieve it, but collectively, there is no stakeholder for humanity. So some financial guys say, okay, because the oil major said, okay, so I think still back to 5 years ago, they are not as active as or proactive as today. So because we have to, be responsible for our investors. And then we're chasing the investors. And this big $1 trillion fund manager said, oh yes, but we have the fiduciary duty to take care of our investors. So which tricks me, who take responsibility for mankind as a whole? So which is quite fundamental, things we have to figure out. So for me, I think pessimistically, we are not able to achieve this 2 degrees, but we should be able to achieve net zero around 2050. I'm confident to achieve, but even you achieving net zero 2050, 2060, but this ecosystem, planet system, eco-weather systems that is so complicated, is have lots of inertia. Think about a big vessel in the sea. It's so hot, even you stop its engine, it will still cruise. I don't know, maybe 1 hour for long distance. So this inertia will keep moving on and moving on, because this CO2 density in the air is still highest. So 500 ppm, even more maybe. So the Earth is still on this trend. So I'm very pessimistic on achieving 1.5 degree or 2 degree. So the scientists probably, they cannot figure out this yet. But for net zero, yes, we can.
Thank you.
Can I just jump in? Thank you for your answer, Ryan. Great question. Well done. I think we should take that discussion perhaps offline in the more intimate session, because there's some science there, Lei, that's emerged in recent times that might lead you to being a bit more optimistic. But that's one for later, I think. But back over to you, Lawrence.
Thank you, Cameron. And I think as a class we sort of waver between, well, certainly I do, waver between optimism and pessimism, and have days where we're very optimistic and days when we're less. As a side note, I think you were speaking about fiduciary duties there. If I'm not mistaken, Lee, you may actually have been the one who coined the phrase fiduciary in Mandarin. Am I correct in thinking that, or have I misinterpreted something?
Sorry, say again.
Sorry. So the Mandarin term for fiduciary duties, I believe you've had a connection to that term in terms of making it well known in the language. Am I correct in that, or have I misinterpreted something?
I think fiduciary duty. Yeah. So for the financial investors, they do have the fiduciary duty. So because the fiduciary duty, which means they only can look after, I guess, the economic interests and the measurable economic interests for the people who are hand over money to them. So there's some limitation of the capitalism definition, whatever.
Sure. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't express that question very well. Let's open back up to the floor. Who would like to go to the next? Margaret. Oh, sorry, were you first?
Hi, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. I was wondering your perspective and insights on the future storage paradigm for batteries, whether it's going to stay lithium, or if you see other technologies coming that will sort of eclipse the lithium infrastructure when it kind of naturally ages out in the next decade or so. And then a second of that, if storage is in fact the limiter to the transition to renewables, or if for energy security purposes, there's something that you're seeing that people are not really considering and we haven't made enough progress towards, be it that procurement of the component parts or minerals or something else.
So sorry, your question again. So for the storage minerals.
So for battery storage, if it will be lithium or if it will transform into some other paradigm, and for energy security, if storage is the limiting factor in the transition to a renewable world, or if there are other aspects that you see as more pressing.
Okay, so I think for the transition, definitely the storage is very critical. But the most critical things is not about lithium storage. It's about the seasonal storage. So especially when we are dealing with the natural industrial park, because we try to be off-grid, because we want to disrupt the transmission grid. We build our own energy system. What we found is once we run into a low wind season, maybe in the August or July, there's a few weeks without too much wind. In case solar is not shining, so then you have a big problem for such a big industrial cluster. How can you support them? You need a huge quantity of energy. So then what we found is I think probably is Cameron's favorite topic, ammonia. Ammonia is very important. Ammonia's lowest cost of seasonal storage in the future. So that's why in our energy system we're producing hydrogen. Then because store hydrogen is high cost, because you have to liquefy it, and also the storage cost is huge. But if you turn into the liquid ammonia, then you can store at a normal pressure and use the liquid ammonia to generate electricity. So it's going to be very important seasonal storage. And today, again, no company is able to making the ammonia-fired generate yet. There are some companies, they have long schedule. So that's again, it's a challenge for the storage cost. So Envision is determined. We're going to move into this field to team up with some company who are making the combustion engine using ammonia. Then we create this ammonia-burnt generators. So so again, so for the seasonal storage, definitely is we have all sorts of way to solve the future challenge. Lithium is only one way. Lithium is mainly for electric vehicles and also for the very short term, hourly, or maybe maximum daily energy storage. But the big problem is seasonal.
Now, can I just come in on 3 points there? It's a great question again, and great answer. On the seasonal storage point, and actually there's an additional problem, which is the kind of 1 in 30 year event, right? When you have very low wind, low sun. There'll be a report out soon by the UK's Royal Society, the peak scientific body, led by Sir Chris Llewellyn-Smith, who's a professor here at Oxford. The students have heard from him this term. That goes into the different technologies here that I think you'll be very interested in. So we'll flick that through to you when Chris and the Royal Society team have published it. A second point on ammonia. I mean, you're right to be thinking through ammonia turbines. There's a lot of interest in ammonia fuel cells as well. There are a lot of challenges with them too, as you probably know. And there's various groups at Oxford and I guess elsewhere looking at these different pathways to and from ammonia, working with corporate collaborators such as Siemens from Germany on making this cycle as efficient and as cheap as possible. So it may be worth the Envision team talking to some of the other, it's not me, but some of the other professors at Oxford here. And then the last thing I wanted to pick up on is just within the narrow space of batteries. Obviously, in the same way that silicon has been dominant in solar, and we may see perovskite layers added on, lithium has been dominant in batteries. But are there other battery chemistries? And Professor Peter Bruce and others here at Oxford are looking at non-lithium based battery chemistries. And I see in the chat, one of our business fellows, Richard Norse, is also very interested in this question of batteries that are not lithium based. Do you have a view on that question? Will we see other chemistries?
Yeah, of course.
In batteries?
Especially for the storage systems. So there's some I think is other materials like neodymium, probably. How to say? My English is not good on the chemical elements. So
manganese, did you say?
Not manganese, is Na.
Na, sodium.
Yeah, sodium. Yeah, so sodium kind of battery. I think so because we do have a few different material being used, because my fund are looking at a few startups.
Very interesting. Okay, great. I think we've probably got time, Lawrence, for one or two more, if there are some from the classroom.
Sure. Chris, do you have any quick follow-ups to that, or your?
The technology that had come to mind for me for like multi-week storage was iron air, which was I think it seems to be too good to be true, but I wasn't sure if you had heard of iron air storage. and the work around that. But definitely a sidebar. So please, anyone else?
Marco, I believe you had a.
Yeah. Hi, Lee. Thank you very much for today. That's fascinating. This question probably piggybacks a little bit on Christine's and maybe even Cameron's there about sort of ammonia. But kind of, I imagine you have some exposure to some, pretty cutting edge technology and innovation and new ways of thinking. So I guess my question is, what excites you most that potentially the general public don't know, and you might be looking forward to sort of exposing or getting into investing, and that might lead into Cameron's sort of VC question. So what excites you most that we may not have heard of that you're interested in?
Okay, sorry, probably I didn't hear that clearly. Cameron,
you want me to play that back, Lee? So
yeah.
Mungo's question is, what are you finding exciting that we don't know about yet, that the public? So what are the cutting edge tech that the public aren't aware of, but you're interested in? And Christine's follow-up question was, do you know anything about iron air batteries? And are they too good to be true?
Sorry, I don't know the iron air battery. Yeah, but I think, so I will pay attention it. So to look at how it works. And, because every day, I think almost also very often, there's people giving me different storage ideas. Yeah, using rocks, using liftings, all kind of ideas. But the other student asking what make me exciting for people who don't know.
Yeah, what do you know about that we don't know about yet? What's coming?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what I know you don't know about is okay, yeah. So let me think about. So after I assessing your questions and your response,
while you're thinking, I'll just say we're going to have to give Mungo the prize for the trickiest question.
Yeah, I think this end of the day, as I point out, for the carbon cycle, so the bacteria, the edges, so these small creatures, micro creatures, so probably they are going to become our God to save us.
That is a great answer. Actually, I think you're right. People don't understand this combination of genome editing, taking capabilities like you get in crossylation acid metabolism plants, moving those genes into other plants like wheat and mainstream crops. I mean, there's an awful lot going on and will go on there that I think the general public has at this stage a limited idea about. But as you say, it could save us, could be our gods. That's a very good question, a very nice answer. We've got just time, if there is one, for one quick one. It's going to have to be quick, though.
Sure. Who had a final rapid fire question? Nigel.
Yeah, so hi there. So I just had a question about skills and human capital. So as we know, China is currently very reliant on coal energy, and I presume that as a result, a lot of the workforce will be skilled in working in coal and that sort of energy production. So I was wondering, in the sort of whole-scale transformation of the energy system from coal and fossils to batteries and renewable technologies, what challenges do you foresee there being in terms of skills and human capital and training?
Was it about scale, right, Nigel? Was it the challenges of scaling?
Of skills, sorry, human capital.
The skills, sorry, skills. So yeah, jobs and skills. Challenges of getting to net zero for skills.
Yeah, I think so. So look at me. I don't have skills for net zero. Back to 15 years ago, I'm just useless financial engineers.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think with your permission, I think I beg to differ that you don't have any skills relevant to net zero, right? But you're very modest. But do go on.
Yeah, yeah. I think what you need is the commitment and passion, and also this proactive attitude. So is most important, you know, for net zero entrepreneurs or a net zero businessman. So end of the day, so you know, so people, for instance, Erdos, people they are digging coal mine. So they were going to repair or maintain the wind turbines. So people who doing the coal chemical processing, so they are going to work in the hydrogen processing or ammonium processing plant. So that's similar. That's lots of industrial contents still similar, but what has been changed is the blood. The blood used to be gray, black, now become, you know, green. Think about the steel. You still need to involve the steel making process, but of course, some part of steel furnace has been taken away by this, you know, the direct, you know, induction reductions by hydrogens. But still, lots of process still remain. So opportunity, there actually is still all the things still remain, but more new things come out. So again, for these new things, just being open-minded to be able to capture it. So the final word is, you know, if you look at the transition from the first energy revolution, people start using coal rather than wood. So the energy industry become much bigger. Then people moving on, people start to utilizing oil. You can see the oil energy industrial is going to be much bigger than coal industry. So this time, when the renewable energy replacing oil, coal, and gas, we will see renewable energy industry is going to be 10 times bigger than today's energy industry, because the renewable energy is so abundant, is so cheap. So today we are still be limiting by the cost of energy. If energy is almost free, we can use the energy to whatever things we like. End of the day, the energy is the God. Think about the creatures. So you don't need, say, think about this protein you are consumed, coming from air, from nitrogen to soybean, then feed the cattle you consume, become protein. So this cycle now, end of the day, is going to be produced in the plant. It's coming from nitrogen, it's come from hydrogens, it's come from some straws, the carbons, CO2s. Then you have a much direct, short process because you have abundant energy. Everything is going to be industrialized. So great energy is bring us lots of imagination in the future.
That's almost a perfect point to end. I'm not done, I'm afraid. I'm sure the class isn't done. Luckily for them, they've got another session with you. But I think this idea of energy as a god, it's a very interesting one, but certainly energy is being much cheaper than it is today. And speaking as an economist, as a factor of production in the global economy, it's driven so much prosperity. And I think you're right that we are on the cusp of a new revolution that should drive even greater prosperity, provided we don't stuff it up by damaging the natural environment in the course of getting all the minerals in for these batteries and for all of the equipment that we need, and that we make it inclusive. Anyway, I would have loved to ask you, how much lower do you think the cost of wind can go? What will be the next breakthrough in electrolysis? Where are the big shortages and bottlenecks in materials and rare earths and other elements going to the process? But we are out of time for this session. Richard, appreciate your comment there, loving the energy as a god, and you've given us lots of food for thought, Lei. It's been a great pleasure to have you to Oxford, if not physically, then digitally. And when things do finally open up, we'll be delighted to have you here in person. We throw a good dinner. And as you can see from the classroom, we have very good discussions too. So it remains for me to say thank you from the Smith School, thank you from Oxford, thank you from our wonderful master's students and their brilliant course director, Lawrence Wainwright, who's there in the room with them. And thank you, Lei, for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you, everyone, Cameron, Lawrence, and others.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day. Bye.